So yesterday we have seen like what are all the object and field level permissions that can be given in either profile or permission sets, and then we have seen the security, record level security. This record level security, what all the different record level security we see is private, public read only, public read write, and for lead and case we have a transfer as well. So OWD, these are all what we can set the OWD values. And apart from, so what OWD, what it will give? So it will give you the what is the least access to any user in the org. So on top of this, on top of OWD, so when you have public read write, there is a max or like it is not restricting anything from record level security. If it is not the read and write, there we are going to, that means we are restricting some access. When you say public read write, whoever the owner creates a record, it will be shared across the organization. So everybody can see the records. When you say public read only, it will be visible to all the org, but they cannot edit. And when it's a private, the only users who created or like who are the owners of the record, only they can access. Nobody else can access it. That's a OWD. It's a base level of permissions, like a base level of record level security that has been defined in your organization for the object wise. So whichever object you selected, that will be the OWD for that object only. Okay, so once this OWD is set, so based on this OWD, you need to think about what are the other ways of sharing it. So let's say if we have public read write, there is no point of looking into the remaining things. Why? Because it's already shared across the org. So no need to share the record again. Okay. For the when we're saying OWD, it's specific to an object only. Okay. It doesn't mean like for every object we'll set the same thing. So we can have a different things for different objects. And we have one more thing called when we have a master and detail relationship. So we will only set for a master record, not the child record. Child record OWD will be controlled by the parent only. The same parent OWD will be applied to the child as well. If they can see the child parent, they can see the child as well. Whatever it is on the parent, it will applicable to the child record as well. So next, when we have a restriction, so what is a restriction? Restricted access will be only when OWD is private or public read only. That means you are somehow restricting the record level security. Okay, so when it's a private, that means it's a minimum access you are giving. Who are the owner, only they can see it. So how the others can see the data? Okay, OWD you are hiding it. So is there any other way we can share that record or give access to the some other users in the organization? Okay. So one thing was you can change the ownership. So Bala has created one record, so only he can see it. So what is the first way of giving others access? So I am the admin. So even though I created, I don't do anything on it. So there are some other users who really work on the data. So what I will do, I will change the ownership to the a specific user. So they will able to see it and they can proceed with whatever they want to do. Just I was creating the data, but I'm not going to use it. So what I will do, I will change the ownership. So you have to make sure that based on your organization security, you have to make your ownership. Okay. So when you're having a data loads and all, you have to make sure that what should be the owner ID. Okay. So ownership will be decided based on a standard field called a owner ID. Okay, owner ID is nothing but the ID of the user who is going to be the owner of that record, and it is a standard field, so which is created by a Salesforce, and we can use that field and change it. Okay, now, so if you want to share the record with not with you, and you want to transfer your ownership to some other user, so you just change the ownership. Or what is the other way? So you can create a queue and assign the group of users to a queue so that all the group can have access to the record. But you cannot make everybody as a owner, right? So it's not going to be a optimal way. So what we can do other than ownership? So I want to keep the owner as a single user, but this has to the same record has to be visible to the some other user as well. Even though owner is one user, I want to give the access to that record to the multiple users. Okay, what is the other option we have? We have a grant access using role hierarchy. So we have explained roles, how your role hierarchy in your organization. So in that, whoever is superior, consider they as a manager, and who are the reporting, they are subordinates. So the superior can see the data that are visible to all his subordinates. So this is the way, if you enable the grant access using role hierarchy, so that your superiors will also get the access of the records that are visible by subordinates. Okay, now so where we enable this one, grant access using role hierarchy, we have a sharing settings where we define a OWD and grant access using role hierarchy. Both will be um, configuring in the sharing settings. Okay, so in sharing settings, we have the ability to change the OWD or a grant access using hierarchy. And the grant access using hierarchy, you can control only for a custom object. For standard objects, by default, it is it will be used using the grant access using role hierarchy. You cannot remove those. You can only control the either use the grant access using role hierarchy or not, only for the custom objects. Okay, and so these are all what we covered yesterday. Now, what is the other way? So I want to share the record with a user who is not the manager, who is not the manager in my role hierarchy. I want to share with my colleague. Like, let's say um, we have this users, right? Like there will be multiple users from same role or same level of role. Let's say I have a like two users in marketing rep. They are belong to the same role, and I have a sales rep. There are two users. So one user from sales rep and one user from a marketing rep. They want to share the records among themselves. They find that whatever the record they are using for a marketing rep, they feel that they are done with the marketing and it has to be handled by the sales rep as a next level. So he want to share that record with the sales rep, but sales rep is not a manager of the marketing rep. He is a colleague and who is having a different role, and there is no criteria. And just for one record, as they know, it's going to be business. Just they want to share that record so that they will progress the business. So how they can do? They can directly share the record. So first, what I will do is I will make this project as a private, okay, and I'm doing a save. Okay, so it will take some time to recalculate the security of the object. Okay, and it will send emails once it is done with all the jobs that are used to complete the sharing. Okay, now I made it as a private. Now what I want to do was I want to go to a project. So this is my project. I want to see all projects. Okay, I want to see some fields like record owner. You see owner or record owner. Just using owner first name. Okay, so now see, so these are the owners. First, these two projects. Batch one is like me, who is logged in now. I'm the owner, and for the project five, team is the owner, and for project one, I think I made a queue as the owner. So I will change back to a just a team as a owner for now. Okay, so I have four records, and they are the owners. Now I made each record as a private. Okay, so you will get a mail like this, processing complete. So when you change the OWD, so based on your new OWD, it will recalculate the security and it will send a mail to you once it is done with the new security. Okay, so based on your data, it will take some time. Now, what I want to explain here was, so the owner of this record is batch one, and if I want to share, I can change the owner. So I made that as a team here, or here you will have a button called a sharing. On record, you will have a button called sharing, and you can share with the users. So shared with the one group of user. What it is, it is a batch one SF tech, and why they get what is the access level? So it is a all access. Next, I want to share with a specific user. So I want to share with this user called a team. And what is the access level? So I want to give like a read only or read write. They have two access level you have it. Okay, I want to give only the read only access and do a save. Okay, done. So if you want to look at, so like that you shared with some other 10 or 20 users. So all things you can see it here, to whom you have shared and what is the access level, everything you can see it here. And how Salesforce will maintain everything like this. So what will happen was, whenever you made the object OWD as a private or public read only, in backend, Salesforce will create one more object called a share object. When you enable the history, it will create a project underscore underscore history. When the object name is project underscore underscore C. The C will have a history when you enable the field track history. When you have OWD as private or public read only, you have a object created called a project share. Okay, so once the project share is created, in this project share, you have the fields like this. Okay, in these fields, what it will store for each record, the record ID will be nothing but parent ID, and to whom it is a group or a user, that ID, and what is the access level and how they're getting the access. Sorry. So you have 4 records in total. So these 4 records, all the owners have the access. So you have 4 records based on owner, they got the access, that is all access. And you have shared 1 record manually and you give only the read access. Okay, and you share 1 more record, then it will create a 1 more record in this, but the records are same. The object you have a 1 record, and when you're sharing with the different people based on different criteria, or like you are sharing with a group, or if you're sharing with a single user, or if you're making it as a queue, based on your sharing.
Bala, your voice is very low.
So is it still same or
Yeah, now it's better.
okay? Sorry. Okay, you're facing a long time, same issue. Okay, let me just repeat. So what I just shared. So what we're doing was, so we having a 4 records in the project. Okay, so when we are saying OWD as a private or public read only, what Salesforce in the backend it does was, it will create a object called a share, the object name followed by the share. So this is the object created by the Salesforce, and in this object, it will maintain the um, what are all the records in this object, and not all objects, for each record in this object to whom it is having access. So let's say if you take 1 record, so I made it as a private. So by default, what will happen? Only owner of the record can access the record. So first initially it is having only the owner base sharing. So it having a 4 record. And next, what I did, I shared one of the record manually to the other user. So what it will say, it will give the other user ID, and what is the record ID. So you have the first record shared with the different user with the read access, and how it is shared. It is shared with the manual sharing. Similarly, what are the different ways you do a share? Everything will be stored in the project share, or like whatever the object it is. In the share object, it will be stored, and using this object, you will know for a single record what are the different ways it has been shared with the different users in the organization. Okay, now we have seen how we can share with the manual sharing. Next, so it's not optimal way, right? So if you have something you want to share a single record with single user, or like on like mm, it's a one-time basis. If you want to do, you can do it. But some business rules you have, like let's say in your organization, like you have a group of users in a marketing rep. Let's say we have a 5 users in this role, and each 5 users, um, they work together. Let's say they created some records. Each marketing rep, they created a 5 records. Okay, so there are 5 users in a marketing rep. So five fives overall they have a 25 records. If they work in a shifts. Okay. So if they're able to close it in their shift, it's fine. But they are sometimes they need to follow up in the time which is not their shift. So somebody else in the shift has to take care of those records. I think was it is a continuous process. So it's not like every day they have to share those records with the who is in the next shift. It's not possible, and it's not a realistic also. So what they need, the organization, who are all in the same role, like who are all in the marketing rep role, they should be able to see records of all users with the same role. So if they are like, let me edit in a paint and just continue there. So in marketing rep, I'm not taking the 5 example. Let's take as a there are 3 users. Okay, and user one having 3 records, user two having 5 records, user three having 2 records. Okay, but what I want to do is, even though the different users have a different ownership, and I made it as a private as a OWT, but still, what I need was who are all in this role, marketing rep role. Everybody can see all these records. All these 10 records should be visible to the user one and user two and user three. So how I can achieve? So one way is like user one has to share this 3 records with the user two and user three, and so it will be like everybody has to work and everybody has to share their record with the different users. How we can make it as a automate? So we have a concept called a sharing rules, where we can share the records based on a ownership or based on a criteria. So our scenario is based on ownership. If the owner of this record is a specific role, then share that records with the entire role. Okay. So let's see how we can do it. Okay. So I'm just going to a sharing settings. So how we can go to a setup and then search for sharing settings. Sharing settings where we define a OWD. So the project I have OWD as a private, so it's fine. So I want to see in the project how can I create a sharing rules. So here we have the project sharing rules. We don't have any sharing rule for now. So so first of all, I need to see what are all the roles I'm going to use. So just I'm opening one more tab to see the what are all the roles I'm going to use. Okay, I'm using a role. So I have a sales manager, sales lead, and a sales rep. Okay, fine. So I want to see for sales rep role. I made everybody, not everybody, on the only the team is the rep over here. Let me create one more user. Mm, oh, for now, I will just use the same role. Okay. So if the sales rep user, so any user from a sales rep if they create a record, it has to share with all the users in the same role. That is a sales rep. Creating a new one. So I'm making it as a sales rep owner share, owner based sharing. So this sharing rule is used to share the other records belong to role sales rep with all users in role sales rep. Okay. So how you want to write the rule? Rule type is record owner or based on a criteria. So I want to do it on a based on a owner. Okay. Select with the records. Do you want to share? Okay. I want to share with the role. Okay. Owner by a member of. So they are role. So role of sales rep, right? Sales rep. And select the users to share with. So again, I want to share with same role, and the role is a sales rep. And what is the access level? You want to do it. To read, right? I want to give it. So any questions here? So this is going to be a what is the owner's condition, and this is going to be a to whom you are going to share. So we see a multiple options over here. If the owner is a member of the public group, then what is the public group? Then it will be applicable to the all members of the public group. So here, what I'm writing for a specific role. If I'm selecting a specific role, so in sales rep, there are 5 users or 3 users. For this 3 users, it will applicable. So any of the user from the role called a sales rep, if they create any record, it's going to share with the role called a sales rep. Okay. If you want to give, like here differently you give. So when you are having a sharing, share with, the share with is always going to be these 3 options: public group, role, role and subordinates. What will happen if I select role means it will be direct. Who are all the users with the role as a specific role? When you use a role and role subordinates, it's going to be a all the specific role. Let's say if I select this one, and if you have a sales rep, what are all the users belong to the sales rep, and who are all the users reporting to this role? They will be having like a junior rep or anything. You have some other role, and there are some users, and they're reporting to the sales rep. All the subordinates will also get access, even though they are down the line. So they are not managers. Even though they are subordinates, you are sharing this record with the subordinates as well. So it will share this record with all the users who are the subordinates of this role as well. The role users and the subordinates of the user. Okay, and if you use the public group, who are all the members of the public group? If it's a role, all the members of that role. If it's directly the members of the public group, then they are. And however, you are adding the members to your group, all the members of the group will get the access. Like what are the access you have mentioned here? Okay, so for now I'm using a roles and I'm using a sales rep, and I want to create like a read and write. Let's do a save and see. We have a share object, right? So how it is going to be shared? It will be captured in that share object. Just I will do a refresh and see. So now we see a 5 records over here. I'm just doing a refresh. See here. Now the rule-based sharing rule has happened. So there are only 2 records which are who are the owners of that sales rep as a owner. So for this 2 records, it's going to give a edit access for the using the owner based, like it's a kind of a rule. It could be a owner based sharing or criteria based sharing. Based on a rule, it's going to share with the different users. But let's see here, this id is quite different from the other ids. They are user ids, and this is a group, or sorry, not group, this is going to be role id. So whatever you see in the Salesforce, everything will have a everything is records in any of the standard objects. Okay, so I have we have a role created. So what is the idea of that role? So you have an object called a role. So in that role object, you will be, sorry, it could be a user role. So it is a user role. In that you have a, what are all the different roles you are having, and you can see what is the ID and what is the role name. So our role name is a sales rep. So this ID is going to use here. I mean, here it's going to use. Okay, and so we have created some record types, right? So for when you create a record type also, there will be a object called a record type. So this is how it will show the record type name and what is the developer name, what is the ID of that record. Similarly, whatever you do or whatever you create, it will be having a some object, and it will be stored in some object with the some ID. Okay, whenever you have a references, it will use the IDs of that record. And there will be some object you have access, and there are some objects you may not have access. It will be completely controlled by a Salesforce. Okay, so when you having a development, you're going to use more these objects. So you need this objects to read the metadata. So metadata means what are all you are building by your configuration, like creating an object, creating a field, how you will know in development what are the object and what is the field. So what are all the API names and how it's stored, all it is called as a metadata, and reading a metadata would be a with help of this standard objects. Okay, so wrapping up here, and we'll continue back on the next recording, or like here it's going to end in 1 minute. If I have any questions, please join back and we'll ask.